Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We just got done with our first introduction to Lo-Fi Week, looking at some music with some lower fidelity in the production quality, and now we're going to be doing a special selection. Today's special selection comes at us from Louis Zanoni. It says St. Vincent, The Strangers. This may have fit nicely into Songs with Orchestral Elements Week. That right there already makes me interested in this. I love music that utilizes orchestral elements in a manner that isn't necessarily just using it for that texture. Where there's actually some classical writing in there, or maybe the violins get to take, the strings or the brass get to take center stage in some elements. They're not just, the background to the song. All right, so let's get into this one. We have the band St. Vincent. The song is The Strangers. I like the playfulness in the instrumental lines. Very compressed on that drum bass kick though. Hoping the song opens up in a bit. Really nice swells here and a legato tonguing. I love that massive delay there. Falling runs in the flutes. What a gritty tone there, Pam Bright. Like that last moment never happens. Yeah, really nice timbre layering there. Real strong warmth there at the end of the track that I quite enjoyed. So that's an interesting song. There's a lot of it that uh, kind of works off of this central idea. We do have a sort of verse chorus concept going on. However, the verse and the chorus have very similar elements going on in the foundational work, which lends the song to feeling very static. Um, it we it's funny because in Electronic Week, we actually had quite a few tracks like this, and I'm still trying to get into this idea of a song that really doesn't move too much, that doesn't really have a thematic reason to stay within its single idea. And right here, once again, this is just a little bit outside of what I typically listen to because it is a rather static song. But I do like how we had a couple changes at the end, and I'm going to get to that. The foundation note is really the guitar work with the quarter note bass drum. They are present throughout almost the entire song. They're doing the same thing. The bass kick is just quarter notes the entire song. Um, and it lays this very rigid rhythmic element to the entire track. And then we have the guitar, who's mostly just doing some odd chord things. Occasionally, they entered into a sort of rhythmic idea. Instead of just playing a chord at the beginning of every bar, they would do these sort of like offbeat strums and palm muted or like muting the sound right after the eighth note. Just these very sharp chord plays, and it created a sort of bounciness to the song because they played around with where they were accenting the beat. Sometimes it'd be on the beat, sometimes it'd be off the beat, and it gave it this fun bounciness that contrasted a bit with the rigid element in the bass kick. All of that was paired, of course, with these very clean, almost whimsical vocal style that had a little bit of sort of a lo-fi grain to it, which I think is interesting given it's lo-fi week for the theme. That there's just a little bit of grit and grain to the vocals, kind of gave it an old-timey feel. And I think that was interesting to pair with all of these clashing ideas. The production in here is definitely very modern, but we have this old-timey filter almost on the vocals. And then we have like this bounciness of the guitar paired with a very rigid element in the drums. There's a lot of contrasting stuff going on here. Not to mention that pre-outro that went super grungy punk stuff with the guitar tone, just bringing in something completely overdriven, completely compressed, clipping way above. It's lost so much of its color and characteristics. It really turns the guitar just into like that toned crunchiness. And once again, contrasts heavily with both what came before it and the outro that came after it. The whole song is built on this idea of opposites and smashing those opposites together and seeing what happens. It's a very interesting concept for a song titled Strangers. The Strangers. I do want to dig into the lyrics a little bit, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, that intrigued me, of course, the classical element of the song, which it was mostly woodwinds, flutes, clarinets, maybe an oboe, I think, at a point. I don't remember precisely, but uh, I think they were utilized very well in the situations that they were. They're not present all throughout, but they added a nice warmth to the song, especially the reeded instruments that I don't think was present in the guitar or the vocals. It added a nice sort of a lower end element, and there was some really cool ideas that were being utilized, even if they were sort of these singular ideas that didn't smoothly move between them. It was just, we're going to do this idea. Now the woodwinds are gone. Now we're going to do this idea. Um, I like the individual moments. I do wish we could have seen a little bit more of that flair throughout the entire song and had a nice movement between some of those elements, but I also appreciate that it would have been a different song. It would not have been St. Vincent's the Strangers at that point. Um, but they do have some really nice layering. They have that nice falling run. And there's another one I mentioned to be, I called it out specifically, and I don't remember what they were doing. But, just overall, I think it was utilized very well, and it wasn't really done for background sound. It wasn't really done for that larger than life orchestral sound that a lot of bands go for. They add the orchestra to the background to make the song sound bigger. Um, these were utilized. It was just a couple of instruments, and they were utilized in a way that added to the song in a parallel way rather than being subjected to the background, being a secondary instrument, so to speak. When the woodwinds were present, they were very much prominent, and they were carrying some sort of melody line. So I really like that. Plus, they were utilized entirely on the outro. Oh, it was the swells with the legato tongue, so that the notes really slurred into each other, but they had just the ever so lightest attack on them. And legato tongue is a way of creating an attack on a note, but kind of allowing the two notes to kind of bleed together a little bit. So, how we typically would say that phonetically is that a sharper attack would be something like a da, da, da. There's a very sharp beginning at that. But we could use an L sound for more legato. So you get la, 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 la. You can hear the second note coming in, but there's not that sharp, stop between the two notes. It really flows together a little bit better. And that's legato tonguing. And they were utilizing that with swells and uh, changing of notes, so that the legatos almost sounded a bit slur-like, just moving into the next note with no attack between them. And it was just a very whimsical playing at that moment. Well, even the harmonized falling runs are very whimsical as well. I think it all pairs well with her voice. It does clash a little bit with, again, the rigidness of the drums. I I don't think the song would be improved having a more dynamic percussive element to it, but it is very prominently different. The rhythmic element's very different from everything else in the song. It's a very interesting choice. Um, yeah, I'm looking at these lyrics, and I got nothing. I really wondered if there was any idea of contrasting elements, or maybe some sort of tension or anger bottled under the surface, which is what would have come up through that guitar tone. And there does seem to be some sort of upsetness here, but I don't, just a real quick glance, I'm not really picking up anything strong here. that I could latch onto and apply to the music on a surface read. As I've mentioned before, poetic analysis is not something I can do as quickly as as musical analysis. But if somebody has information about the lyrics or maybe the story that they tell, I would love to know how that might pair up with the music and explain that guitar tone section. Because it is quite an outlier. Caught me way off guard. And I'm really intrigued of how they landed on that and decided to implement that. I do like this though. It's an interesting merging of sort of pop with punk. Is pop punk a thing? It has the production of pop where we have really nice moving virtual instruments, I would assume. I mean, maybe they have live woodwinds with them. I don't know. But being that it kind of feels poppy to me, I figure they're virtual. And then, like with this real gritty punk element that seeps its way in, and I wonder if there's songs that they do that isn't such a harsh divide. Maybe they find a way to reconcile the differences and create something that's edgy, but also has that nice production and beautiful harmony lines to it as well. I don't know. It's a very interesting take. I do really love that outro though. I think the way that they harmonized the woodwinds with their width against not the width, the warmth against her vocals, and I don't think it was melodic harmony. I think they were all singing the same notes, but just the way that the timbres and tones worked together created a very soothing outro, which is interesting because, of course, it comes off of the most unsoothing section of the song. So yeah, like I said, I just don't understand how that section fits in there, but I'm intrigued by it. So those are my thoughts on St. Vincent's The Strangers. This is where you guys come in. Though, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. If you have any extra context on the song that I could come to understand it a little bit better, go ahead and leave those comments down there. Above the comment section, there's a description box with a link for Linktree in there, which is a really nice resource. It's a menu with all sorts of links to other stuff related to the channel, such as the Discord, Patreon, Twitter, special selections, everything. There's like 11 things in there. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll continue on with Lo-Fi Week and look at another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.